About to mess with it. What's up, Teen Talk fam? It's your host, Deshaun B. here with.
The legendary Ajane Jacole.
Your guy, Sneaky Trey, man.
Your boy Brandon.
Thank you all for tuning into our show. It's now time for Career Pathways, sponsored by the 100 Black Men in Las Vegas. Career Pathways give us a chance to meet interesting people and learn about their career choice in life. So if you're still wondering, what do you want to be when you grow up? Listen up. This career might be for you.
Joining us now in the studio is Mr. Cliff Harrison. He's a 3-time Emmy Award-winning media professional with 15 plus years of diverse experience in TV broadcasting. Mr. Harrison is currently the Senior Content Programming Engineer for the MGM Resorts International that includes hotels such as the Aria, Bellagio, the Mandalay Bay, the MGM, and more. Welcome to the show, Mr. Harrison. It's truly an honor to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Tell us a little more about your career as a Senior Content Programming Engineer for the MGM.
Well, as I've taken on prior to that, as an engineer or whatever, I manage and oversee the digital advertising content deployed across multiple platforms. We're talking about closely 3,500 displays or touch points. So we're talking about, as MGM, we're one of the largest, 12 on the Vegas Strip and 5 on the East Coast, so 17 properties total. Also, I control, we're talking about 3 arenas. We talk about Mandalay Bay Event Center, Grand Garden Arena, and T-Mobile, in which we do, and also 1 theater, which we have is our brand new Park MGM Theater, which hosts a lot of our residencies. So I do a lot of the content and collaboration with their teams, as far as with Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga, Cher. We have like Aerosmith, Janet Jackson, so forth and so forth. So it's a good opportunity. It's definitely fast paced, managing content for 17 properties and arenas and doing some things. And my team is only a small team of 3 of us. So we manage all that content.
Yes, sir. 3 of you guys?
Yep.
That's crazy. Well, what is TV broadcasting?
My TV broadcasting. So, well, my career, and to talk about, just to go backwards a little, my career before getting here 6 years ago, born and raised in Southern California. And of course, upon going to college, I was trying to find what I wanted to do. And upon taking communication and media classes in theater, and I took a theater production class at the time, and I found that I was pretty good at it, because my professor at the time was like, "Oh, you're pretty good at, doing camera and direction and those type of things." So I started to, take on that, those roles and taking on more classes. And as production goes on, I was at the time of probably my junior year, senior year, I ended up wanting to do an internship. Based on that, I ended up doing my first internship at Paramount Studios. And at Paramount Studios at the time, I was definitely blessed that one of the biggest talk shows at that time was Arsenio Hall show. And I was able to get my foot in the door and work as an intern. And then eventually I was able to get a production assistant position there. And from there, I was at, Paramount Studios, worked at CBS, KCAL 9, moved from there, and that was news. And then I went on to Fox and working for Fox Television for like over 12 years. And then most recent was ABC, and before I got out here. So I've worked in a few genres. So.
All of them. Deshaun,
Out of all of the positions you worked, which one has really taught you the most and left you with some knowledge that really left you prepared for the world?
I say mostly all of them, because a lot of them was basically, if you notice all my jobs are basically deadline-driven, fast-paced, deadline-driven type of environments. Working in news, there's nothing like that. It's always fast-paced. It's always, you have to think on the go. You always have to be fast. If there's a package, me being a producer, but my job there, originally I was an edit supervisor. So I managed a team of editors to make sure that we cut our stories, giving them their daily job assignments, and making sure that the stories are ready to be sent back to playback. Upon that, a lot of times you run into technical issues, where a lot of times at the hold of our technology, in a sense. So whenever there's something that went wrong technically in the field, if a remote or something was missing, or if we had any type of failures or whatever, I had to think on my feet. And out of doing that, I also took those lessons. What my father would tell me, he would always say, "Hey, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail." And what I would do in those moments is that I end up making and creating B-rolls of, saying, generic B-rolls of people at Starbucks or walking down the beach, or people playing basketball. So whenever we had any type of stories and any type of failures in a sense, and we needed to go on the air, because the thing about it, as live TV, is that the show goes on no matter what. You can't stop and pause, because when we go into that next break, you got to have things ready. So I always try to prepare myself, of having like B-roll prepared, and being able to take that back to Playlac. And in just case we're doing a remote out in the field on a particular story, so that, or either if we needed to cut or edit, we didn't have to wait for the tape librarian or archivist to bring that footage. I mean, sometimes so many writers are requesting footage from one person that's back in the library, that puts them behind. So I already had that stuff ready. So they always loved that part of it. So it was like, oh yeah, we got it. You're doing a story in Starbucks? Okay, here, do it up and we take it back there. So a lot of times that's prepared me. So when I moved out here, I came out here to assist a young lady at a particular time. She's no longer with us, but at a time it was all these properties and MGM. It wasn't just, I'm not responsible for one property. We're talking about, like you said, Aria and Bellagio and everything down there. We're talking about 12 properties plus the East Coast. And at that time, we're getting requests and we're trying to put up content. And at that particular time, working in a fast-paced, deadline-driven environment, that definitely has helped me in areas to where no matter what people see, they always talk to me and say that I'm cool under pressure. It takes a lot to get me rattled. So
Brandon, you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Basically, so knowing what you know now, what is one thing you wish you knew when you first got into starting the media?
Probably then I wish I would have maybe learned a little bit more. It's a little bit different now, but I wish I would have learned the craft a little bit more before kind of like being thrown out there and learning, because it's a lot different. Like when I was coming up, like saying, you talking about in the 90s and stuff like that, a lot of times you learn through either you want to be a writer or a producer or you want to be a cameraman. Sometimes it's an apprenticeship and things like that. But I wish back then that I can kind of take my time and research really what I wanted to do and kind of hone that craft going in, for that position. So I could have already just been ready for that.
Ajane, you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Harrison, earlier you said that you worked for Fox, and I just always wondered, what was the process behind the scenes to getting a story out so quickly?
Well, you have behind the desk of every station, it's almost like competing. So what you do is you have the assignment desk, and they have all their radio bands on police frequencies and everything, and they're listening to it. So basically,
Wow.
Whoever gets the story first, I mean, you can have CBS, you can have a local ABC, they're all competing. So a lot of times they're listening to, when you hear that call from the local sheriff department, or there's some type of fire or something, they're sending a crew out. So that's pretty much how it happens at that point.
Wow. I didn't know you guys had frequencies.
Oh yeah, they have that. Yeah, definitely. If you were to look at every assignment desk, you see CBs, radio bands. I mean, they have different, we have different frequencies for different departments, and we're ready to go, when something happens. So that's how you get your news.
Mr. Harrison, what advice would you give teams who are interested in broadcasting for content programming?
For as content programming in itself, I would definitely advise you to definitely, if you can, definitely go to school. Definitely, if you can kind of research different schools now that they have performing arts schools, they have design and art and design colleges and things like that, and really kind of honing what you really want to do. It's so many aspects. Do you want to be a writer? You want to be a producer? Do you want to be a director? And I think once you start to research and start to narrow down, but sometimes it's good to know different facets, because a lot of times that makes you more valuable. And I would say that's definitely improve of getting your foot in the door. Definitely, if you can get an internship like I did when I started and stepped on my first steps in Paramount Studios, I was there. I wanted to listen. I wanted to learn. And what happens is they see that you're a hard worker. You going above and beyond. And it's like when there's a new show that opens up, or if they're doing a new production, they'll remember you, and you can touch base with them.
You said you started back in 10th grade on it, but how did you get interested in the broadcasting?
With some about how I get interested. Originally, I wanted to grow up. I wanted to be a fireman.
Yeah.
And that was before I was in college. You know, that's when I was talking about sophomore in a sense. But I wanted to be a fireman, and at the time, that was a very coveted job. It was like my dad would say, "Yeah, you can you know, work 3 days. You're off 3 days." I was like, "Oh, I can do that." You know, and I wanted to do that. I always wanted to be a person that, you know, be in the work of civil service or something like that. But as I was in college, I started to try to, you know, I didn't want to, everybody was so saturated in getting like a business degree in business administration or whatever, if it's engineering and those things, biology or doctor. And I've always been a person where I wanted to be creative. And I love taking things, storytelling, something from, you know, from a concept to a completed state, you know, and that's what I started to learn what I liked. And based on that, that's what, when I took that class and that production class, that definitely hooked me and got me going and got the juices flowing for me to follow that path.
Brandon, you got a question?
Yeah, I had a quick question. I remember you said it's really important about internships because, yeah, it builds a rapport with whatever company you're working with. And I was curious for myself, how did you like approach them for the internship and like how did you put yourself out there?
Now it's a funny thing. Sometimes it's, you know, you hear sometimes in the music industry and things like that, like some people will say, well, this person just, you hear from like Nipsey Hussle, for instance, he'll just go and, oh, Snoop Dogg, he's coaching at this particular part. Let me just drop off my tape, you know, and hey, I don't want anything, just listen to it. So sometimes it's different ways where you can go the traditional way of going through their HR department and those things. But back then, one day I just took a drive out to Hollywood and I can't tell you, I just went there. They let me on the, they definitely let me on the, you know, to drive through and get on the lot. And I went to the production studio, because normally if you ever been to film studios, they're definitely heavily guarded. You know, you got to have passes, you got to know who's who to get on there. And I was like, hey, I'm here and I want to get an internship package. So definitely it was definitely having favor that day, but he allowed me to go in there. And I was walking around and I'm looking at the back lot and I'm looking at these facades. You ever been to Universal Studios and seen, you know, the facade of New York City or Chicago? And that was just, I love that aspect of it. So I went one day, I walked in and got my internship packet, filled it out, and turned it down, and definitely I happened to be selected, you know. And so sometimes you have to, you know, sometimes think outside the box, you know. But traditionally, yeah, I mean, now a lot of things are controlled by HR. You know, even hiring now, it's not even, hiring is a little bit different because before, even when I first, actually how I got a job on at Fox was that I happened to have and meet somebody out in the field. He never goes out in the field. He's the one I was talking about working assignment desk. His name is Drake. He happened to be out in Orange County and happened to be out in the field. And we happened to talk and we exchanged numbers. And I was saying, yeah, you know, I was media communications major and things like that. And just walking in and he was like, okay, here's my card. We're actually moving from Hollywood to West LA and give my former, you know, give my boss, the director, Tom Searson, a call. So, and that's how the door opened up for me. So sometimes it just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
If you want an intern or somebody to come up under you, how could they reach you?
They definitely could reach me by my number or by my email address that I will provide. And, you know, and I'm always there to help others. A lot of times it's a little bit different. It's all now, like I said, it's all controlled by HR now. And in a sense, I can't do like the old school way of, hey, why don't you come, you know, sit with me and shadow me and those things like that. You know, a lot of times it's regulated. So they try to filter things into HR, then HR kind of gives out those, you know, those type of internships now. So, but yeah, if they reach out to me, I definitely try to do the best. And even with helping others, you know, I have connections and working at different studios and working LA market and some people that I know out here that are on the air. I definitely often try to help out in that way to say, hey, I know this student that's interested. You know, do you want to look at the sizzle reel and look at their reel and give them a critique? You know, do you have any opportunities? So I also can help out in that way, in which I try to do.
Deshaun?
How important is community involvement in your life, Mr. Harrison?
Oh, it's very important. Definitely giving back, serving. That's definitely, you can always, you know, have all these accolades and have money and those things, but it's definitely always giving back. So my root of definitely being a part of 100 Black Men, also to traditionally my fraternity, you know, so that's always been a part of me of giving back, having certain programs and teaching, you know, so I've always, ever since college, you know, and even before then, I've always been involved with the community and those organizations.
That's wonderful to hear. And I'm glad to know that your community has sticking with you throughout your whole entire journey. Thank you so much for joining us today on the studio. We definitely learned a lot of information about you and your field. Thank you to the 100 Black Men in Las Vegas for sponsoring this segment of Career Pathways on Teen Talk. If there's a career that you want to learn about, message us on Instagram at Teen Talk Vegas 881 or go to the website teentalkvegas.com and send us an email.